So I was just spazzing a little bit because I had to rush out because I remembered I had crashed, and when I went to film earlier in my ride, the camera wasn't on my head. So up here, I just caught it off there. Okay, now it's a good day. Hey cycling community, this is Steve, Grusis the Cycling Greek. Today was going to be a Zwift race, but after yesterday my legs aren't feeling it, so no need to push it. Actually, that works perfectly into what I was going to talk about today. The small changes I'm making into my training to actually follow my training. And I'm also going to talk about my weights. Little problem I'm having with it. Let's do the easy one first, weight. So a couple years ago, I got into a low during the racing season of 161, which was real great for me because I could really climb at that. Last year, the low I'd gotten to was 163. And I usually, when I got into those lows, I usually stayed, within a couple pounds of there. Now, toward the end of last season, I started taking creatine as I was beginning lifting, very adaptive lifting, very light lifting before the end of the season started. So I've put on water weight because of the creatine. I put on muscle, and I put on ample amounts of fat. So I began the X Block at 173 pounds. After the X Block, I weighed myself a couple days after, so the inflammation and whatever that accumulated can dissipate. So I came in at 170 pounds. And visually, the mirror test, it showed that I had trimmed a bit. So that's good. Now, I'm still around. This is about a week and a half later. I'm still around 170. And I just find it difficult. Now, the major change I made from my diet compared to, let's say, a couple years ago, I'm eating a lot more protein. I may be eating other things too, I don't know. I'm using the method of move a little more, eat a little less. Because I don't want to make any big changes, even though I'd love to see big changes. The reason being that would just kill my gains in power. One of the things I did discover, or I should say realize, is that I like eating nuts and seeds, and I eat a lot of those. And I was eating too many of those. And once I looked up how much fat they have in them, the little amount that's in there, so I dialed that way back. I eat, typically, I eat 4 kinds of nuts, 2 kinds of seeds. Very healthy, but if you want to lose some weight, you got to take a look at that. So now let's talk about my changes in training. Now, the changes are not necessarily a radically new, different training plan, but small changes. And some of those are that I have to make sure that I actually follow through under certain situations. So the last few months I've been spending a lot of time on the flats, and I think it's been paying off. I've also been focused on what I call focused solid endurance, and that seems to have been paying off. Now, I mentioned earlier I was going to be doing a Zwift race today, but yesterday I did 88 miles of that focused endurance, and my legs this morning just weren't up for the task of that. So I rode about 40 minutes, maybe an hour on Zwift, and so now I'm on the gravel, just to have a little bit of fun. In fact, that's one of the things I have to watch out for, doing too much upper intensity work. Because already during the week, in this block, I'm doing Sweet Spot, and I'm doing VO2 Max. Now, the Sweet Spot I'm doing, and this is one of the changes, is I'm incorporating it into a little longer endurance ride. Usually I'd go out and do Sweet Spot, do a couple intervals of those, maybe 3, depending on the format, and then I come back in. But now what I'm doing, and hopefully take a little pressure off of me, is I'm doing it during a longer, and this is in this case 2 hours plus, 3 hours maybe, endurance ride. I'm doing one 15-minute Sweet Spot interval. When I'm returning to do the next interval, that one is tempo. Maybe in later blocks I'll increase that, but for right now, that's not overcooking me and keeping my, I guess, TSS down to a reasonable number for this time of the year. Same thing with the VO2 Max work. I'm usually doing 4x4 intervals, kind of like the old guy VO2 Max work type of thing. That usually, with the warm up and cool down, that takes an hour. Now I've incorporated that into a endurance workout that lasts about 2 hours. So I'll start off with the VO2 Max work, and then I'll do a solid hour endurance. Now, I feel real strong when I first start off doing that, but toward the end of that hour, I'm getting pretty knackered. You may be thinking, why am I breathing so hard? Well, this is why. This is not a gravel bike, this is a cross bike. So I don't have those really nice gears. When my form goes up and my workout calls for a hard workout and there's some condition, let's say it's a little cold outside, that type of thing, I'll tend to replace it with a Zwift race, which is better than nothing, but it doesn't give that same type of stimulation that I'm looking for. And I have found that that sucks in terms of my training outcomes, my overall form. So I'm being a little more diligent with that, and that's just one of the items. I would not only do that with those high intensity workouts, but with the sustained longer intervals, I could do that. And sometimes I would opt to do them on the climbs rather than the flats, when I know I should have been doing them on the flats. Now these are in past years. With all the focus I've had on the flats in the last few months, along with the weather, of course, because it's winter, and when you climb to really colder temperatures. And if there's rain, well, that will definitely suck. I've been doing a lot of climbing, so I'm now looking for opportunities to climb. I'm not dedicating a midweek work yet to going back to the 4-lane and doing that, but I'm trying to incorporate on my longer Saturday ride a climb. So this past Saturday I did what was called the Walker's Grade, and that's about 3.6 miles. I'll say averages 5%, 6 with the extra weights, and getting back into climbing, I have some work to do. Ordinarily I want to be in pretty good race shape by the time the first race happens in mid-February. This time I'm not doing that. I just started my build. I'm looking forward to peak in June for the National Masters Championships. The potential kink with that is that we're going through some changes in the Cycling Greek household, and I may not be able to race. And I really want to race it because I'm racing age of 70, bottom of the 5-year range age group. You know, stuff happens. So, but I'm going to train like it just in case I'm able to. Keeping those small details of not replacing the good stuff with some marginal stuff is going to help me a lot, I think. At least I'm looking forward to. All right, so I've been training on the bike anyway 10 to 12 hours a week. Sometimes I'll take a jog, that type of thing. I'm not including that. I'm not including, of course, the weightlifting, but I'm looking to this week I think it's going to be like 13 hours. I'm looking to slowly increase that to approach 15 hours, and the extra time on the bike is going to be endurance. So that is what I'm doing differently this year. I hope you got something out of this video. As always, remember, comment, like, subscribe. The Cycling Greek.